You're listening to Deliberate Living, a podcast that inspires, empowers, and encourages listeners to live life more authentically. My name is Holly Priestley, and I'm a full-time nomad and writer who has been living in my 1997 Ford van since January 1st of 2019. I travel the United States with my dog, learning how to live with more authenticity. I explore different ways people choose to ditch the prescribed life we've all been sold and live on their terms, finding freedom and happiness however they choose. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Deliberate Living podcast. I am your host, Holly Priestley, and this week I have my friend Cole on the show. He has been doing van life for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and he's in his second van now, a 1971 Chevy G20. If you're watching the video version of it, you can see it in the background. Otherwise, I will post some pictures in the audio or in the blog post version. And he's got a really excellent design aesthetic. So if you enjoy looking at the insides of vans, definitely check out anything about his. You could be an interior designer just for vans.
Thank you.
Hello, Cole. And for my audience who maybe doesn't follow you on Instagram and hasn't gotten to hang out with you in real life, why don't you give us a little bit of your backstory about what you were doing, pre-van life and how you made the leap?
Well, I got my first van in early 2017, because I was sick of all the crap that comes along with, renting an apartment and working in a job that just pays your bills and all that stuff. And, I had just gone through like a bunch of personal changes. I had a crappy relationship that went down the tubes and a crappy job that went down the tubes, and it all happened at once. And
yeah,
I just kind of thought, why would I try and build this over again?
Yeah.
Like why would I do that? Why don't I just do something different this time? And one of my buddies had just gotten into like an old Dodge Tradesman, like Class B, and he and his girlfriend were gutting it and remodeling it and moving into it. And I remember him telling me, yeah, this is my answer to the millennial problem.
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me. And I thought about that. And it was a while before I came to the moment where I wanted to change. But once that happened, I remembered him saying that. And I thought, honestly, it sounds like a lot of fun. And I always wanted to have like an old 70s van. And so that's where it started. And I'm still doing it, still enjoying it. So far it's working out.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing. Not that, your shitty job went down the tubes and your shitty relationship went down the tubes.
Oh, no, that was a good thing.
But yeah, I think ultimately it was a really good thing. It kind of like forced you to reevaluate your life, and it gave you the freedom to pivot rather than, sometimes we can feel stuck like, well, there's nothing wrong with my life. I just kind of want to change, but there's nothing wrong with it. And then if there isn't necessarily like, like baby birds have to be kicked out of the nest in order to fly. Like if you don't get
right.
kicked out, either you're not going to. So life kind of kicked you in the pants and you're like, well, I'm doing something else.
Right. Well, and a lot of people think, no, I just have to work harder.
Yeah.
Not necessarily work different or work on something else. I just need to work harder. And that's kind of where I was at. I was like, well, I guess I just need to love my crappy job more and, be a better underling and kind of just like nut up or accept it, whatever. And just, bow to the will of my crappy overbearing existence. And then I was like, no, I don't feel like it.
Yeah. I know sometimes like I'll do that to myself where I'll feel like, well, I'm just not trying hard enough, or I'm doing something wrong, or like this is my fault somehow, because society kind of puts those expectations on you. Like, well, at one point, I did have like, my dream job, my salaried benefited cubicle position doing this work that I was really excited to do. And I was living in Colorado, which is a place I really wanted to live. And I had like just bought my house and I was like, all right, well, I did all the things. Happiness will show up. And then and I was like even more miserable than I had been like when I didn't have any of those things that I thought I wanted. And I thought it was my fault. I thought there was something wrong with me,
Yeah.
And like, there's nothing wrong with you. And I just want everyone to hear that. Like, if you're doing everything quote unquote right, like by the book, by like what society or culture or your parents tell you to do, and you're still not happy, like, that's not your fault. That means that you need to change and like try something
Yeah,
else.
you can do something else, and like some people might kind of look down their nose at you for that, but that's not your problem. If
Yeah.
you if you're on your way to being happier, then you're not gonna have to worry about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So when you first moved into your first van, a 94 Chevy G20 low top, different than what you have now, what
Yeah.
what were the first few weeks like? Were you were you excited
Well,
immediately? Like you had friends who were doing it, so you kind of like knew what to expect?
I didn't really have a ton of friends who were doing it. I had the van for a while because I got it and then it needed fixing up. It was like a beat up old plumbing truck, and I had to pull out all the Adrian steel and fix a bunch of rust and fix the transmission and do all this other crap to it. So it took me a while to get it actually on the road and living in it. But once I was past that hump of doing all the work and getting it ready to go, it was just like it was like being out on the ocean. I just kind of went west. And I stopped. My first stop was in Quartzsite, Arizona, because I knew I wanted to go to RTR, and I wanted to see what Quartzsite was like.
So
So I stopped
when
there.
was this 2018 or 19?
This was 2018
Okay.
that I it was like yeah, it was 2018 that I first hit the road and started traveling. I'd been living in the van for a little bit, and like building it out and friends' driveways and parents' driveways and stuff like that. Um, but I wasn't actually like on the road until 2018, and yeah, I made it out to San Diego, and started working odd jobs in San Diego, doing landscaping and stuff like that, and just kind of sitting on the beach, smoking weed and listening to lo-fi beats for hours on end, and just kind of decompressing. I spent a long time just decompressing, and then I started meeting people and establishing a friend group, and then I went to RTR and ran into all those folks at Adventure Isle, or yeah, and then just kind of snowballed from there.
Nice. That's awesome. So you were kind of able to just get on the road and figure it out and make it work however you were going to make it work. And I don't think that much has changed in the last 3 years. Seems like you're still
Yeah,
making it work however
I
you
just
make it work.
go from thing to thing and see what's out there, and yeah, I like I'm trying to find a little bit more direction now that I've had my time to drift for a while and meet a lot of people, and there's definitely a lot of stuff that I want to do, but I'm still kind of nailing it down because I don't want to keep doing landscaping and odd jobs and stuff like that forever, because it's not as easy as it used to be because I'm getting older, and
Yeah.
I'm not ancient or anything, but it hurts more when you hurt yourself and when you're
A
in your
little longer
30s.
heal.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at maybe doing some woodworking or something, and maybe also some other stuff. I don't know.
Van design.
Yeah. Van design. I'll figure it out. Money is no object.
Yeah. I think that that's a really good mindset to have about it. Like and it seems to work for you. Like when you need it, you work and it shows up, and when you have enough of it, you're good for a little bit, and that's cool too.
Yeah, I think that's how a lot of people on the road do it. Because I mean that's kind of why a lot of people do it, is because you can work for a little bit and then coast for a little bit and go from place to place. And if your job runs out here, you can maybe go somewhere else and pick up a new one somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool. But yeah, I do want to get into something that's maybe a little bit bigger payoff and a little bit more personal to me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Do you know how much it costs you on average every month to live in the van?
Um, Most of that money probably goes into gasoline, and I mean it's a 71, it's emissions exempt, and I haven't been keeping track of what kind of gas mileage it gets because I'm a little bit scared to find out.
Mm-hmm.
But I know it's probably in the low tens. And my bills are pretty low. I mean, my phone bill is almost $100 a month. My insurance is about the same.
Your car
Um,
insurance?
yeah, yeah, that's the only kind of insurance I have. But yeah, that I mean, between my phone bill and my insurance bill and other recurring expenses, I'm probably paying overall about $300 to $400 a month. Um, Max maybe six.
Okay.
Which is, as far as expenses go, way less than I was paying when I mean, six, I was paying more than six and just in rent, when I
Yeah.
was living in a place. So it's definitely cheaper.
Yeah.
And
The cost
it's
of living.
cheaper to buy food and cook it at home when you're not at work and you don't have to go on your lunch break and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely less expensive than when I was on grid, so to speak.
Yeah. I think that's true for most people. And I think that's another huge contributing factor to people deciding to get on the road in the first place is, like you said before, like freedom from having to make money just to survive, like
Right.
not having to just like work and toil away and like just to pay more than $600 a month in rent. And, the last apartment I had was more than that for sure every month, just to live in it, you
Yeah.
don't even get to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Now
And
it's
all your
a
free
lot less.
time is spent, decompressing from your crappy job or, all the stuff that you have to do that you don't want to do just to afford what you're doing. You
Yeah,
know?
it's so strange. It's such a strange concept. Like especially being, a few years out of that world and into this one. It's like, people will ask me, well, sometimes my well-meaning friends and family will send me like job ads like, hey, you'd be really good for this job. And I'll look at it and be like, yeah, I really would be really good for that job, but you could not pay me enough to
Right.
like
To
sell
go
my
back to
soul for
that.
40 hours a week. Yeah, especially if it's like a location dependent job where I had to like actually go into an office. Like
Yeah.
you would have to pay me so much money to get me to do that. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it would have to be something that's like, okay, I'm going to do this for a year and it's going to have me traveling for 3,
Yeah,
like
something like
it's
that.
got to really pay off.
Yeah, short-term hustle, long-term gain for sure.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the noticeable differences between the first few weeks you were on the road and now, being a few years in? What are some of the biggest changes that you think have happened in that time frame?
Well, these days I feel like I'm focused more on my own personal well-being and less on just like tossing myself into new situations
I love that so
and
much.
in weird places. Because before I was like, I'm just gonna go out there and like run into stuff and see what happens, and it was a lot of fun, and I saw a lot of cool shit, and I met a lot of cool people, and I ended up in a lot of weird situations, and um, now I'm trying to regulate my own like well-being more so, which I feel like is kind of a lot of folks experiences when they get on the road is they get to a point where they kind of have a wake up call or something and they realize, oh, I do have to take care of myself after all, and I do have to make time for my mental well-being and things like that. um
Well, and the things that
and
you need will change and evolve too. Like whether
Yeah,
you're in a van or not, like the things that you needed 3 years ago and the things that you need now, like you're a totally different person than you were. So
absolutely.
I think part of it is yeah, like the first year or so you're in the van, oftentimes, not all the time, people do travel more. They do like do more driving, like get to more places, have more adventures because you do have that excitement and that like, that energy of doing something new that you've wanted to do for a long time and it sounds like fun and it is. And then eventually it's like, okay, cool, like that's neat. I still want to do that, but also like I need to breathe. I need to slow down. I need to
Yep.
yeah, focus your energies elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and then you get to the point where you can't do all the stuff you want to do without supporting yourself financially,
Yeah.
and you do get kind of tired of doing the usual uh gig jobs and stuff like that that are the most easily available, especially now,
Yeah.
with the plague year and all that. You don't want to be working on the front lines or whatever
Hmm.
if you can avoid it. And so yeah, it's definitely going to be a more like self-productive year, I guess. I think I'm gonna try and make it like that.
I think that's awesome. Um, and I'm here for it. I will support you all the way. What do you think are some of the biggest pros and cons of living this lifestyle? We've talked about some of the biggest pros being, that you have that freedom. You don't have to slave away and work for any reason other than, you want to support your lifestyle. What
Right.
do you think are some of the other ones and also the cons?
I've met a lot of really awesome people. Um, and I've met a lot of people who are as excited about like personal growth as I am. And not just like coming up and getting things and getting a better life, but also to like, developing themselves into a better person. And I feel like I'm able to surround myself with people who I wouldn't have met otherwise because they're from all over the place and they're always moving. Um, and so I end up at these gatherings at RTR or some van dweller meetup or whatever, and I meet you're going to meet a lot of people you don't like, just like any other type of life, but also you're going to meet, in my opinion, you're going to meet a lot more people that are on your same wavelength
Yeah.
than you would, when I was back in Colorado working at a liquor store. It's definitely much more rife with people who are kind of in that same mode. The other thing is just travel. Um, Travel is paramount to personal growth. I feel like you can't really have one without the other ultimately.
Yeah.
And
New experiences fuel a lot of personal growth, just being
yeah.
exposed to different people and different things and seeing how other people react to stuff and then being aware of how you react to stuff.
Hmm. Yeah. And I mean, it's almost a necessity. I mean, you can move into a van and just kind of stay in a town, I guess, and not go anywhere if you want to. But um, I don't know, with the changing seasons and stuff. I don't have a very well insulated van, and it's old and drafty, and I don't really like the cold that much anyway. So the travel is kind of a necessity, and I really enjoy it, and I like seeing new places, and you know, plague willing, I'll hope to go to other countries before too long and see them as well.
Yeah, it might be another year or two, but I think things will get to some new semblance of normal. We'll be
Yeah,
able to
we'll
travel again.
we'll reach a new plane of reality before too long, whatever it may be.
Yeah. So then do you think some of the cons are the fact that you have an older van that you don't want to know the gas mileage of and it's kind of drafty and
Yeah, it's tough for me to shit on this van because it's so much better to work. Like I don't have to take it to anybody. I can just crack. Like I was literally just looking through this before you called, and because I got to replace all my belts. Well, I don't know. I probably only got to replace one of them, but I should replace all of them because I haven't since I got it. Um, and you can do all of it with like a wrench and a hammer, and
yeah.
YouTube pretty much. And the newer ones, you got to take them in. You got to have somebody, open it up with a special wrench that you don't have, and all that kind of stuff. So it is drafty and it does get bad gas mileage, but I can fix most of the problems myself. And that's a lot cheaper that way. And I don't have to rely on, anybody else's timeline. I can kind of just get the parts and do it when I need to.
Yeah.
Um,
Are parts hard to come by for such an old van?
well, being a Chevy and a small block 350, they're not that hard. The most trouble I've had are because it's drum brakes all around.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 3/4 ton. And in 71, the 3/4 ton were 6 lug wheels, but the rear end is from a 94. So the rear end is 5 lug wheels. And I have to get these 6 lug front brake drums that are an AC Delco part that nobody sells.
Yeah.
It's just that kind of stuff is kind of a pain, and I have to struggle around that and eventually maybe replace the front hubs or something like that to get around it. But there's a lot of parts, both, you know, OEM and aftermarket, that you can use to get around various problems. And it's, so far I haven't really had much trouble other than the brakes and a couple other small odds and ends.
Yeah. I think that there's two trains of thought when it comes to like purchasing the vans. Is like, some people want the newer van because it's supposed to be more reliable and it gets better gas mileage. And, you know, over the years, certain things have improved in vehicles in general. And then I know, you know, the other half is kind of like what you're saying, like the older vans don't have as much, you know, complicated stuff. They're a lot more simple. They don't have computers, they don't have special parts. Like, it's all kind of just easy. And that's part of the reason I have the van I have, a 97 Ford, is, you know, because I was looking at some of these newer vans, like a Sprinter. It's a very popular van when you're considering van life.
Mm-hmm.
If a Sprinter breaks down in the middle of the desert, you have to take it to a dealership to get it fixed. And if
Yep.
an old Ford or an old Chevy or an old Dodge breaks down, emphasis on old, breaks down in the middle of
Right.
the desert, most mechanics can fix it or find parts for it, or like junkyards, you know, have parts
Mm-hmm.
for it. But then at the same, like, it helps if you're a mechanic, like, you know, you're very mechanically inclined. I'm not. I know so much more about cars than I have ever known before, but I still feel like I don't know a single thing about them. I don't think I
Yeah.
can change my brakes, not without, you know, a shit ton of help.
Oh,
Um,
I still
but
feel that way about all kinds of stuff too. You know, I'm like, oh man, what am I going to do when I have to fix that? Well, I mean, I guess probably the same thing you do every time is either learn about it or admit defeat and have somebody fix it for you, you know?
do what you can to learn about it, and also know who you're going to take it to just in case you have to do that.
Right. Well, and it helps to, like, one of the other things is meeting people. One of the benefits to meeting people is that I have met some really capable mechanics, and made friends with them. And I'm blessed enough to be able to get in touch with them and ask them questions if I don't know the answer, if I can't track it down on YouTube or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can text them or hit them up on Instagram and ask them questions and get really good advice because they've, you know, torn down 15 of these things and rebuilt them,
Yeah.
and they know them inside and out. So that's been really, really awesome too. That's another benefit of knowing all these new people is, you know, just the extra wealth of knowledge you get to partake in from them.
Yeah. Is there anything about the tiny living nomadic lifestyle that is exhausting or that you wish you could change?
Not really.
No, this lifestyle's perfect. I've never had a bad day, not even once.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, that I think I'm just less picky about, you know, like I'll shit in a bag, whatever. Like, a lot of people are like, I could never.
Yeah. Oh,
And
you can. You really
yeah,
can.
oh, you can. Just wait until you get to that moment where it's do or die, you know.
Yep.
Then you will be totally cool with that.
You'll figure it out, and then you'll be like, well, I guess that's the thing I could do, and it wasn't as hard as I thought.
Yeah, it's never as bad as you realize. I mean, you look,
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, well, you know, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, people had it much worse. They didn't get to hop over to the 24-hour gym and take a shower after they shit in a bag.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and during the pandemic, we didn't either.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that's where the solar shower comes into play.
Yeah.
Or maybe just a river that isn't too cold.
I think that's great. What do you think the next few years look like for you? Are you gonna run this van as long as it'll let you, or are you looking to upgrade?
Oh yeah.
Plan
I'm
on
gonna do the government mandated hover conversion when it comes down the line. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see fossil fuels lasting very long. I mean, I guess it's either our environment or it's fossil fuels, right? So
yeah.
we're gonna give up one or the other before too long. And Chevy has talked about doing an electric crate where you can take like an electric engine or electric motor that'll mount up to the same engine mounts as a 350, and so they'll pull your V8 and drop in an electric crate, and then presumably find a place to put the batteries.
I've never heard of that before, but that is really cool. I hope Ford is.
Yeah, I don't know how close they are to making that a reality, but I read an article about that they were prototyping it, and
that's so cool.
yeah, so it won't be as loud and intimidating as it is now, but I guess you could just pop in some outdoor speakers and play metal music or something if you really wanted that.
I love
so I don't know, like I really like this thing, but I could see a time where I might have to get it replaced. I feel like even if I do, I mean, my over like long-term goal is to hopefully end up on a little patch of land and drop a shipping container on it or something, and start a little garden and be able to grow food and have a shop where I can build projects and stuff like that. But I don't think I'm ever going to want to get rid of my vehicle. Whatever.
The same way.
Some way to move and travel and live. And I really like this thing. I don't know if it's going to last, but
no, you just get one of those electric engines, trade it out. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine. I'll die in this van. not soon, hopefully.
Yeah. Ideally, not soon.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody who's in the space that you were in 4 years ago, where you're trying harder to make it work, and you're trying, you just got to work harder, you just got to be happier, it's your fault that you're miserable? Like, what would you tell somebody who's kind of in that situation?
You don't have to keep following that blueprint. You can drop a new one, and it does take work. It's not like you will get discouraged, and challenges and setbacks can't kill your dream. Only you can kill your dream if you give into them. But you can make it through, and it will not be easy, but it will be rewarding.
Yeah, I love that. Challenges and setbacks can't kill your dream, because like they're gonna happen, and when like in the aftermath, it usually feels like your dream is dead, but it's not. You can pivot, keep going, figure it out a new way.
Shit's gonna happen. I mean, my old van went out the door when somebody T-boned me, and it was like my worst hashtag van life fear was I was going up the one on the California coast in the middle of nowhere, and this Ford F-150 came out of nowhere and plowed right into me, and then the van was gone. I didn't have cell service. I was stuck on, like, he pushed me into the ditch. Like, everything was covered in like swamp water, and I was like, this is it. It happened. Like, everything I didn't want to happen just happened. And then I was just hoofing it. They took me to the hospital, and they gave me a little taxi voucher because I was officially homeless according to the state. And then I was out on foot, and that was like, once you actually have that fear looking you in the face, and then you look around and you're standing there and still breathing, which I was lucky to be standing and breathing and ambulatory. Then I was just like, I was shocked and awed at all of the support that I got from my friends and my family who were there for me. to make my landing a lot softer after the fact. And I was lucky enough to be able to get insurance money that paid for the new van, and got a little bit of work done and got me back on the road. And honestly, it all worked out okay. I mean, it doesn't always happen, but with a little bit of luck and finesse, it can happen.
Yeah. Sometimes your worst fears can actually be really beneficial for you if they come true.
Yeah. It's a trial by fire sort of thing. And I mean, the first part was having my job go south and my relationship goes south and my, the place I was about to rent goes south and all that stuff. And I was like, that was the first trial by fire. And then that was fine. And then, you just got to keep growing through them.
Yeah. Growing through it, all of it. I love that. I think that's awesome. Cole, where can people come find you online if they want to follow what you're doing and maybe snag some of those 6 stickers?
Oh, yeah. Well, my Instagram is Rat Rod Rambler. And you can get the stickers at Tall Boys VC, which there's a link in my bio on
I'll
Instagram.
Link to it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, it's on there. It's on the internet. You can find it. And that's really it. I don't have a YouTube channel or anything. I might start a blog or something. I don't know. Or not a blog. Wait, what are we doing? A podcast. I might start a podcast. But I don't know yet. I'm still amassing my creepy mansion full of gadgets here. So
if you started a podcast, I would listen.
Oh, thank you.
I think you should. But thank you so much for being a part of the Deliberate Living show. And I want to
thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I want to thank everybody who's listening for tuning in, whether this is your first episode or your 40-somethingth. By the time this comes out, I think it'll be 46 or 47. So it's pretty exciting. Yeah. Coming up here on a year, which is going to be March 2nd is going to be my year podcast anniversary episode.
Hell yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. And so if you got any value out of this episode, if you could please go ahead and give it a thumbs up or a 5 stars, whatever it is that the rating system on the platform that you're engaging with it on, that would be awesome. Subscribe and share it with your friends. Anybody who is maybe going through a hard time in life right now and needs to see that it'll all be okay down the road.
Change is possible.
And tune in next week for another excellent episode. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
See ya.
We've reached the end of this episode of Deliberate Living. You can find the show notes and everything we referenced over on my website, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, on YouTube, or sign up for email updates every time something new is published. I'll see you next time on Deliberate Living, and until then, keep your life on the DL too.